Hi, welcome, Jeff Stitely. Jeff, we've got another great topic to talk about. Again, from our book, Relationships for Men by Men. And let's get it on the screen here. I knew what was best for everyone, and certainly for myself. I know there's a lot of people who walk around with that belief. Okay, so I just want to tell
Yeah,
everybody
but
that
most of us don't admit that.
no, we don't. It takes some work. So I just want to say to everyone, hang on till the end. Jeff will share with you at the end how you can get hold of him and how you can work with him. So, Jeff, let's go back to that one again. I knew what was best for everyone and certainly for myself. Okay, those are your words. So off you go. Tell us.
Well, that's quite an arrogant thing to say. Um, and
No, I believe that firmly for a very big part of my life. You're not the
yeah,
only one.
and a lot of us do. I mean, and part of it is the conditioning we grow up into. I mean, I grew up that in a very religious, born again Christian structure, which teaches you that there's one way, and and I know the way. You know, the way is through Jesus Christ. So once you know that, everything else is just taken care of. So I know is a basic come from that I was brought up in, is that structure. So I grab it, it was natural for me to just keep, as I developed more skills in life and got more mastery over certain things, for that way of thinking to just expand and expand and expand until it becomes like dangerous, really, because you're no longer being in the moment and being present and seeing a person you're with. You're not getting to know the person you're with. You're assessing them and then deciding who they are. And then
You're basically judging them.
yeah, you're judging them, and then and I'll speak for myself. I'm judging them, and then I'm deciding what they need and how I can help them.
Mm.
You know, um, which is an incredibly arrogant position to come from, and it's an asleep position to come from. Asleep, as in, it's not real. They're my judgments. Any judgments I have about somebody aren't even about that person. They're about me. And that's one of the most beautiful things. Abraham Hicks has a quote. Some people will love you, some people will hate you, and none of it has anything to do with you.
Mm.
And I love that quote because it constantly reminds me that any judgment that's coming my way is really about the person giving that judgment. Any judgment that, when I catch myself judging somebody, I have to step back and go, wait a second, you know, whose judgment is that? Where does that come from? And my judgment about somebody else comes from my conditioning and my beliefs. It has nothing to do with the other person. I think somebody who's really confident is really is a great thing. To have a lot of confidence and some bravado and some strength in the world. That's a beautiful thing. Whereas somebody else may have been brought up like, oh, confidence, that's arrogance. They're an a-hole, because they're so this and so that. And so two different people will have two completely different judgments about a person. Well, what does that say about the person being judged? Nothing. It says everything about the person judging. It's their conditioning that is creating their judgment. So judgments are a great window into our own beliefs and our own conditioning. And so if you can start to notice and look in the mirror every time you catch yourself having a judgment and stop that judgment from going out to that other person and reflect it back, you can learn a lot about yourself. It's amazing. But that's a process where you have to let go of knowing everything, because you're now questioning yourself. You're now being vulnerable and acknowledging that you don't know. And you're
Yeah,
curious to discover something about yourself or about the other person.
Yeah, I see that so often in couples counseling, um, where you have usually one who's much more entrenched in their belief system and one who's more entrenched in and keeping the other one happy and peaceful. And when you have this one set outlook of I know what's right for me and the other person, and there is not even an idea that this person is coming from another nest with different feathers and with different family traditions and different outlooks and different belief systems. And there's an expectation of this person don't have the rights that I have to believe whatever about whatever. That person is not as right as I am. That person needs to change because I am the more right one here. There's like no comprehension that this is a very separate human being from you. And if you are together, you're an adult and this is an adult, and this person has as much right to their life experiences and their outlooks and whatever they have picked up along the way. There's an oblivion about it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's, when I'm stuck in my judgments and I'm stuck in knowing what's best, I'm not seeing the other person at all. They're a fixed being, and they're fixed in a box that I've created for them that defines them and limits them to this particular definition. And now I know what they need,
Mm.
and it's very harmful, and it's hurtful, actually,
Mm. Mm.
because at the very most basic human level, you're not seeing the other person,
Ah,
you
yeah,
know and
absolutely.
and,
Love
and,
it.
and at the very core level, the first thing we want is just to be seen. Just to
Mm.
be seen. You've played peekaboo with a little baby, 6-month-old baby, and you close your eyes and you look at them and go peekaboo, and they just squeal in delight.
Mm.
And they squeal in delight because they're seen.
Mm.
They feel seen in that
Mm.
moment.
Mm.
And that is like a joyous thing, to just be seen. So we've really got to, one of the waking up things for us to do is to wake up to our own arrogance and our
Mm.
own um, our own superiority.
Mm. And our rigid thinking, rigid thinking.
Absolutely.
It's a childhood coping mechanism that we adapt. This is how it must be in order for me to get through the day, the week, the year. If I am like this, I get through. If I'm not like this, I get judgment, opposition, punishment, withdrawal, the cold shoulder from a parent, shaming, guilting. It's very painful for a child to get all of those things. So we just get into a way of being that gets us through. It's a coping mechanism. And then it becomes so entrenched that we are so rigid about our thinking that we don't realize we're in auto mode. And it's a very long time, if ever, that we've become present in our own lives and started asking, but is this real? And is this true? And is this working? And should I be like this?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. And I think a lot of it is you know we as human beings have our frontal cortex, right, where we can reflect and we can look at ourselves, and we have the ability to self-assess, and so that's a unique ability amongst living animals on this planet. And so I think to be able to see how we make things up and then live as if that's the truth for everybody. I think when we start waking up to that being a fictitious way of living, a fictitious, it's just not real.
Mm,
I think
mm,
when we wake up to that and start exploring life without, well, let me back up for a second. Our mind, understanding our mind's job. Our mind's job is to define everything and to understand things and to organize things into the known. Because our body and our mind wants to know. It wants to feel comfortable. It wants to be in familiar territory because it feels safer. Just biologically, we're safer if we're in the familiar. So this, I know what's best for you, and I know what's best for me, I know what's best for everybody, comes from this tight desire from the mind to know everything. And so it's as false as it is and as unreal as it is, we have no sense that it's not real. We are living as if it's absolutely our world. And so when you start waking up to this, it's an amazing exploration to begin to let those things go and to be able to be in relationship with someone else and to drop that stuff and to be in a quiet mind and just be with somebody and to experience them without the mind going, da 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 da, they're this, they're that, they're, and
You have
all the
to.
stuff.
Yeah. You have to be like that. You have to be like that. But rather to experience the other person. Like, what are you bringing? Let me become investigative, open, interested, hearing and seeing.
It's so
As a
fun.
separate person. Yeah, it is.
There's a whole world of exploration when you're just open and when you're not coming from knowing. It's way richer and way more fun than holding on to that, that tightness.
Jeff, I am so excited to do this work and to introduce more people to it. There's a point where you get to where you are present and you've got this peace inside you. And it's nearly impossible to describe it to people before the time. When you've worked through all of these levels of becoming aware and dropping all these old belief systems and then just being present in yourself and in your own self-love, joy, excitement about people, where you honestly just don't have judgments about people anymore. You just feel love for people and understanding. It's so hard to explain to people who are still in this defense fight mode. Like, I have to protect myself, I have to fight, or I have to withdraw, or I have to dominate, or, because that's our habitual way of being, looking okay. And when you do a lot of this awareness work and you become really interested in what goes on in your head and what is the habits that you walk around with, you start building a whole new neural pathway in you, and you redefine everything that you've believed in. You're still the same person, but you're just suddenly more you and the person you're always supposed to be, more open and more free and more excited. And you don't want to change other people anymore. It's just an amazing place to get to.
If you think about it, like, how boring would this world be if I was able to actually shape everybody to be who I thought they should be?
Oh,
there would be like no surprises. There would be nothing interesting. It's like, why would I want to do that? Like, it makes no sense. And yet we do. So, and I think, like, I don't know, for my experience, I can only speak in my experience, right? And I know there are gurus out there who have reached some kind of, all the time in a peaceful mind or whatever. I think it's more for me and for most of us, more a matter of just awareness in the moment. Like, judgments never stop. It's a matter of catching them as judgments. So, instead of having a judgment come across my thoughts about somebody else, and then immediately being like a recognition, like, oh yeah, they're that way. It's like, oh well, that's a judgment. That doesn't mean anything. And that recognition in the moment, the awareness of it being a judgment, I can let it go and just come back to just seeing, hearing, feeling, and being in touch with that moment, with that person.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a discipline, really, to living non-judgmentally. It's like catching it, you know, constantly. And I think that it's a fun game, actually, because then you can just, I mean, I'm laughing at myself all day long, like how insane my mind is. My mind makes up the craziest shit. It's just, it's insane, you know, and it's brilliant at times to take me out of the moment and to get me thinking about this or that or some story, or trying to get me to believe into something, you know, just, and it's brilliant at its cunningness, you know. And so to appreciate it as that, and just keep moving on, and keep being dedicated to waking up, you know.
Well, you know, Jeff, being a guru who lives in a perfect state of peace means actually you need to take yourself out of life and out of relationships. If you are part of life, shit happens. You know,
Yeah.
children are going to vomit on you. Spouses are going to die. Mountains are going to erupt. Governments are going to go crazy. You know, things happen. Shit happens.
Yeah.
You're in the world. You've got to live with the idea that perfect peace is not something you're aiming for. You're aiming for being able to handle what comes at you in the moment, work through it, experience it, feel it, and do it without putting all these have-tos on other people. Okay,
Yeah.
so we've been talking about we don't know the best for other people, especially if we have never ourselves become present in our own life, because we don't even know the best for ourselves. And it really is just ourselves that we can focus on. Okay, so Jeff, will you please tell your fan club how they can get hold of you and what you can do for them?
My fan club. I love that. Yes, you can get a hold of me at my website, rhythmofnow.com. And it's RHYTHM, rhythm of OF now, NOW.com. And in there, I've got my week-long men's course that I teach. I do individual and couples coaching. And yeah, you can get a hold of me through there if you'd like. Yeah, thank you. It's been a real pleasure.
We'll put all of this in the show notes, so it's you can easily get it. You can get it on Spotify, Apple, or on YouTube, wherever you are listening to your podcast, or on YouTube. If you want to see it, if you're like me, quite visual, and you want to see the people. And if you enjoyed this, please will you send this forward to somebody else, and remember to subscribe, because that way you will always have it pop up to the top and you will know there's a new episode coming out. Also go look back in the previous episodes. There are more conversations with Jeff, always amazing. And until next time, Jeff, we've got more to talk about. We're going to talk about more amazing topics.
Thanks, Louise.
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it. It's great being with you.
Yeah,
thanks,
love
everybody.
talking to you. Always. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, everybody. Till next time.
Bye-bye.